Minister Narendra Modi has just completed 100 days in office. Admittedly, 100 days are never enough to measure someone's performance, especially when Narendra Modi has also announced that he will ensure he gets a mandate for at least 10 years or more. But what we are going to do is we are going to use these 100 days as a teaser for the governance roadmap in store.
आपके बीच प्रधानमंत्री के रूप में नहीं, प्रधान सेवक के रूप में उपस्थित हूं।
While Narendra Modi's parliament speeches showcase him as a statesman, it was his Red Fort speech that connected directly with the masses. Prime Minister Modi had worked hard for this moment, and when it came, he embraced it with the assurance of the chosen one. However, it was a legacy of thorns, for before he could move on to the vision part of governance, the new Prime Minister had to first iron out wrinkles like price hike, inflation and a horrific rape and murder in Uttar Pradesh.
I would say that at the end of 100 days, the marks would always be on effort. And I think in the effort area, he's not been bad. He's made an effort in multiple directions. If one looks at directions ranging from judiciary to labor reform to Japan to Pakistan, he's made enough of an effort. Like it or leave it, these efforts now have to be put into actual results. So that's going to be a process. Direction setting and agenda setting and slogan setting, all of these full marks on. In terms of thinking through processes, I have a feeling that certain things are perhaps a bit hurried. Some are a little short-sighted, but in all there is a significant change in direction.
Because with the Congress numbers reduced and with them out, with everybody else, this Lok Sabha has functioned so well. We've passed 13 bills and there's hardly been any days where the whole house has been adjourned. And I think that just goes to show as to who was disrupting it. It's always the ruling party. The onus is on them to ensure that the house functions.
Admittedly, the Lok Sabha majority helped Modi push his mandate for change. The government was quick to rush through key legislation like the Judicial Accountability Bill and FDI in insurance. He also didn't hesitate to take bold decisions on rail and diesel price hike. These were hard decisions that had been pending since Manmohan's time, but the former Prime Minister lacked Modi's political chutzpah to push these through.
When Mr. Modi took over, he took over from a very lackluster regime. There was no governance, there was no accountability, there was no transparency, and there was no, the writ of the government did not run. So therefore you can't say that the Modi government is a replica of the UPA regime. He has in fact started with a bang, bringing in accountability in the administration, transparency, e-governance, and especially the discipline. No, ministers were never disciplined during the 10 years of UPA regime. Today you find, nobody can deny that all the ministers are working in a very disciplined manner, in a very efficient manner.
समाजवादी ढांचा और सोशलिस्टिक गवर्नेंस मॉडल ये दुनिया में टिक चुका है, भारत में भी कहीं नहीं चलने वाला है। सिर्फ एक रिलीफ सेंट्रिक एक कुछ चीजों को कुछ लोगों को एक दे देने से लोग अपने पैर पे खड़ा नहीं होते हैं। कुछ लोगों, गरीब लोगों को सत्ता की राज्य की सुरक्षा चाहिए, लेकिन इसके अर्थ नहीं कि उनकी वर्किंग एफिशिएंसी घटा दे, उनको एक निर्भरशील बना दे। इस प्रकार की ढांचा भी नहीं चलेगी। उसमें से लीकेज होती है, उसमें से करप्शन बढ़ती है, उसमें नॉन परफॉर्मेंस बढ़ती है।
Another bold move implemented by Modi was to do away with the Planning Commission. The Nehruvian legacy had outlived its utility and even the UPA had toyed with the idea of reforming the commission. But ultimately it was Modi who announced that he planned to replace the Planning Commission with a new think tank that was more in tune with the times.
He needs to be very cautious and careful. What kind of commission is he going to create? Because the Planning Commission takes care of poverty elimination. Apart from that, the welfare of the common man, women, child, minorities, SC, ST, backward, everybody the Planning Commission ensures. The Backward Steering Commission takes care of poverty elimination. Apart from that, the welfare of the common man, women, child, minorities, SC, ST, backward, everybody the Planning Commission ensures. The backward states also, that aspect is also there. And other than that, federal structure, the center-state relations, that also Planning Commission keeps in mind while approving the annual plan. So all these things he has to be cautious about it.
I think the Planning Commission was largely irrelevant in any case apart from the big noises it made. The things that it was dealing with, allocation of funding to the states, will still have to be done. And you can call it by some different name or the other, but those functions will still have to be performed. We'll have to look at it again. So I think, yes, in the old way Planning Commission, that we've gone away from it, yes. But the idea that Planning Commission should have been fixing priorities, that these are important goals for the government, I think that had its place. And if those goals are going to be set from the Red Fort rather than the Planning Commission, well, I think that in some ways would be a loss because you cannot centralize so much power in a Prime Minister.
The opposition was equally quick to point out that a majority of Modi's initiatives were actually implementations of schemes planned by the UPA.
I mean, I don't see any achievement in 100 days except that he has inaugurated certain projects which had been initiated and completed by UPA government. It's only an opportunity which he got and inaugurated those, projects and got the mileage, like INS Kolkata, which is a fighter warship, and then this Jammu Katra Vaishno Devi railway line and not many other things. So I don't think there is actually any achievement.
You know, there are a lot of people who've criticized from the Congress that, oh, these are all our schemes. The question to be asked of them is, at the end of the day, the public is only interested in the last mile connectivity, as we call it. So if you built a train line and didn't inaugurate the service, people are not going to give you credit for it. That's one. So yes, there are some low-hanging fruit that Narendra Modi has taken advantage of, which are things which are almost bana hua, paka hua kind of stuff. So he was very happy with that, and he took them to the logical conclusion. But I think that the hallmark of the Modi start has been a distinct show of a directional shift. So I would say that it's unfair to say that this is all UPA stuff repackaged. It's not all old wine in new bottles. I think he's showing a directional shift, which is what the country was waiting for.
During the election, the BJP had campaigned against the Aadhaar card, which is widely regarded as the UPA's trophy scheme. Yet when it came to power, the NDA retained most of UPA's schemes, including Narega and the Aadhaar card. This soon led to the criticism that this was not NDA, but actually UPA 3.
I think to say that in some ways the biggest criticism that can be leveled at Modi, because UPA 2 was a disaster. If it is a continuation, then this is going to be a disaster.
Well, essentially, if you look at the last 3 months in a perspective, or maybe a few days, less than 3 months, the government unfortunately has not been able to unveil either a vision or, for that matter, even specific policy impulses or policy imperatives which would really define and characterize its time in government. So therefore, whether you look at the budget or you look at the various promises which they had made with regard to bringing down inflation, or for that matter, if you look at their foreign policy also, you do not see a clear definition. What you really see is a humdrum of governance, and therefore that may have impelled the Congress president to articulate that response, that in fact what you're seeing is really a continuum rather than something different which they had been promising all throughout their election campaign.
So, Rudy, do you agree with him? Is Modi Manmohan Singh in a turban, without a turban?
No, what I would like to say here is, I exactly appreciate what they have to say, because this is exactly what they can say.
They have nothing else to say.
And if they have to appreciate what they think we are doing, that will not come from the Congress. It would be very unfair to expect the Congress to acknowledge us today or maybe 5 years down the line. So it's nothing very unusual, and I think they have the freedom to say that you are no different. And government as an institution cannot turn overnight. We have to put things in place, and at the end of the day, Congress will appreciate, Manish will appreciate, we have to go back to the people. And please give us the freedom to set what we, to put our tracks where we want to go. So I will not join issues when they say it's no different. People have given us an opportunity to show the difference, and we have, and what we are speaking is actually what we have talked about. So I will not join issues that no, we are not different from you. We'll show our difference.
Modi's narrative of development, however, ironically hit some roadblocks from within. An impatient RSS had been waiting for 10 years ever since the Vajpayee government for a return to power and a chance to implement its saffron agenda.
All this talk about Article 370 being repealed, about the Ram Mandir, you think that won't happen under Modi era? He has the mandate.
He has the mandate. Whether he wants to focus on it or not, that's the key question. If he doesn't, 1 year, chalega. After that, people will start, the rumbling will start. You said that, you know what, the thing is that during Vajpayee's time, the standard formula was, we don't have majority.
Exactly, yeah.
But you have majority now. You will have to build a mandir. You can choose any way, but the best way would be to talk to the Muslim community.
You know, this Article 370 and other things, the echoes of the RSS coming out, you know, this...
It's not echoes, this is the agenda. And this is the Modi government's existential problem. They have been brought to power which are the most reactionary criminals that we have in this country. Forces that brought them to power have not brought Modi to power in order to see him converted into a Nehruvian secularist. They want him to be what Modi was, a pracharak.
Do you really find any debate in the government on these issues? No. The government is not at all getting deviated from its agenda of development and progress. So if some people are raising these issues in their own capacity, it should not be construed as agenda of the government. And that, I think, has been made very clear by the Prime Minister himself as well as all the ministers.
The apprehensions of Modi, communalism, the signal of a Hindu nation, the very fact that Modi has not challenged people who are close to him and who seem to speak for the party and for the RSS clearly seems that this is something that he has no desire to control. That is, I think, very damaging to the kind of country India is. So I think that is the biggest problem with this government.
While the Prime Minister has not deviated from his non-partisan statesman-like avatar, the promotion of Amit Shah as the BJP chief has the opposition questioning his agenda.
With growth agenda in one hand and communal agenda in the other hand, he is moving forward. So, and he will, from one voice, he will speak of growth, one voice, Amit Shah will speak of Hindutva, and that is how they plan to go ahead.
Ever since this government has come into existence, have you ever heard a debate on governance? All that you've been hearing is the spectre of fundamentalism, the spectre of communalism, the insecurity, coming back onto the agenda. Day after day, you hear statements out of their ministers, out of their ideologues, trying to browbeat the minorities into submission. And if governance was really on the agenda of this government, they would have actually reined all these voices in and focused on governance. Over the last 2.5 months, I have not done a single debate on television which has been focused on the governance of this government. So therefore, I think what you're really seeing are the green shoots of policy paralysis already erupting very quickly in this government, and that is why all that you hear is outlandish statements, ranging from the ridiculous to the sublime. Somebody saying bikinis will not be allowed on beaches, somebody wanting to convert this country into a Hindu Rashtra, somebody talking about the repeal of Article 370. I mean, every possible issue which has nothing to do with governance is the staple of the BJP, its government, its ideologues and its instrumentalities.
Wow, he's really painted a very grim picture.
I do not know.
Are you letting governance be overridden by all these things?
This is what they think. But I don't think anywhere, any institution...
But he is right. The debate of the day has also been deviated a bit into, statements made by RSS chiefs, statements made by union ministers who talk about Article 370. Do you need all this right now?
Those are issues. There are some issues. I would not say bikinis or someone taking a bath on the beach should become a policy level issue. But there are certain issues and which are agitating the nation. I do not agree that this is the right time to talk about abrogating Article 370 but there could be individuals who have been perpetuating certain philosophy. We may not be in 100% agreement to that, but there has been a growing anger in this country how the Congress has gone on what we call appeasement. And have you seen the mandate in this country this time? The Congress party's policies over the last 65 years has isolated a majority community, minority community in this country. And they are also feeling, because they also feel that we are also inviting them. This is the time to forget the Congress policies
comments
of 65
like these
years
will
and get back into the mainstream. And I think the biggest challenge for us is to bring all those who felt insecure during the Congress regime to feel secure during our tenure, and that is exactly what we are doing.
I think that there is reason to worry that the debate has shifted in a sense to non-serious issues and issues which are to do with ideology rather than ideas. But I have a feeling that from the Prime Minister's office there has been less in terms of ideological sort of bluster. And for example, on the poverty side, I would say that if he does manage to give a bank account to every single household in India, the process of creating opportunities to link benefits into bank accounts is a huge thing as far as the poor is concerned. It's definitely not directed at any one community. So I would say that it's unfair to say that his activities in his 100 days have been that, but it is equally fair to say that in these 100 days the ideologues in the party have had a free rein, and Modi has allowed them to do that.
For those looking at the optics, the PM's Red Fort speech must have sent reassuring signals, for he avoided all Hindutva talk and instead focused on his development agenda in such minute detail that he even made a plea for more toilets from the ramparts of Red Fort.
हिंदुस्तान की सभी स्कूलों में टॉयलेट हो, बच्चियों के लिए अलग टॉयलेट हो, तभी तो हमारी बच्चियां स्कूल छोड़ करके भागेगी नहीं। और मैं एमपी लेट फंड का जो उपयोग कर रहे हैं हमारे सांसद, उनसे आग्रह करता हूं, 1 साल के लिए आपका धन स्कूलों में टॉयलेट बनाने के लिए खर्च कीजिए। सरकार अपना बजट टॉयलेट बनाने में खर्च करे। और मैं देश के कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर को भी आह्वान करना चाहता हूं, कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पांसिबिलिटी के तहत आप जो खर्च कर रहे हैं, आप उसमें प्राथमिकता स्कूलों में टॉयलेट बनाने के लिए दीजिए।
I think it's a brilliant idea to get down to basics, and Modi talked about banks in the same tone that he spoke about toilets. And I think that if one were to consider India's problems, sanitation is probably high up there among the top 3 agenda points which any government needs to have taken into account, because it impacts 3 major areas, and that's why Modi chose it. One is sanitation affects the health of the country, 2 it affects the image of the country, and 3 it affects the women of the country. And if he manages to tackle sanitation in a kind of war strategy approach, I think it's a good thing for this country.
I think these are issues that are important. I think every Prime Minister should be addressing that, every government should be addressing it. The question is, I mean, you can go around and look at Modi again in past history. I think the one thing he hasn't done over 10 years in Gujarat is exactly focus on this section of the population. So this sudden change that we see in Modi, you have to look around and ask how much is it sincere, how much is it aimed at the gallery that is apprehensive about what he represents economically. And I mean, these are again questions that will answer themselves, because in Gujarat, you can look at this record poverty alleviation, it was not that great. You know, I mean, given the kind of economic growth Gujarat saw, it was not that great.
Narendra Modi also brings his unique style of governance to Dutyans Delhi. In fact, such is his attention to detail that fear stories about Big Brother watching are already doing the rounds. According to one such story, a union cabinet minister was pulled up just because he was wearing jeans for an official tour abroad. According to the story, the minister got a call from Modi at the airport and was asked to immediately change his clothes. According to another story, another cabinet minister who had landed in Bombay to meet an influential industrialist was asked to cancel that meeting and catch the next flight back. And so on.
There is a strict list of do's and don'ts for Modi's team. They have to be in office on time, they cannot consort with industrialists and should avoid both five-star lobbies and lobbyists. For the record, however, the ministers are full of praise for the new working regime.
Every minister is working.
Modi's team. They have to be in office on time, they cannot consort with industrialists and should avoid both five-star lobbies and lobbyists. For the record, however, the ministers are full of praise for the new working regime.
Every minister is working with junoon, with passion. And when the government is all working with passion and with a clear-cut mission, we are going, and without commission, then we are going to achieve lot.
So mission and no commission.
Yeah, and for the people, this will be important.
He is ready by 5:30, and then he is, through with all his newspaper reading, yoga, everything by 7, then get into the work. These are, certain guidelines in one's life which inspires others.
Another hallmark of Modi's governance is his over-dependence on bureaucracy. Some would say at the expense of the minister's authority.
That's a good thing if he is able to, control the bureaucracy, and if he is able to deliver in terms of bureaucratic output, then nothing like it. But so far, results are not that visible, tangible. But I hope in future those will be visible. But ministers should also be empowered. It's not that you isolate ministers and only bureaucrats should take the decision, they should call the shots. That's also not good.
That's exactly to be expected. That's what he did in Gujarat. It's, in the sense, this is the hallmark of a man who's not truly a Democrat. His approach is simply that I'll tell you what to announce to the world. Don't ask me inconvenient questions. Don't ask me what is going wrong, what is going right. I will not submit to any kind of questioning in a democracy, not just by the media, but even by my own MPs who come and talk to me. I actually just end up lecturing him. Modi is basically lecturing his own MPs. So there's no questioning by anybody in this government. It's a single point, one-man show so far. That's not the way to run this country.
The downside of the Modi way is that he often gets labelled as a dictator. His core team consists of Arun Jaitley, Amit Shah and a downsized Rajnath Singh. He has also given key posts to relatively junior ministers in order to ensure smoother control from Racecourse Road.
It's a very interesting thing. Mr. Modi has cleverly given all the important portfolios who owe their existence or owe their position to Mr. Modi, who have not won the election. Like Arun Jaitley ji has the unique distinction of being the first defense minister along with the finance ministry. Then you have Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad holding important charges. You have Mr. Javadekar in Forest and Environment Ministry.
Embarrassed ministers have to explain why they don't even have the freedom to choose their own officials in the ministry. For the Home Minister, who is in charge of the Appointments Committee, the embarrassment is all the more compounded.
सारा देश जानता है कि प्रधानमंत्री तानाशाह न तो तानाशाह हैं और न तो कमनल हैं। यदि वह तानाशाह और कमनल रहे होते तो मैं समझता हूं कि इतना बड़ा भारत देश, यहाँ की जनता यह मैंडेट न देती कि स्वतंत्र भारत के इतिहास में पहली बार किसी नॉन कांग्रेस पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को क्लियर मैंडेट संसद में हासिल हुआ है।
The media too is getting used to the new rules of the game. For one, there is no media advisor in the PMO, but instead communication is a one-way street, usually via social media and strictly on a need-to-know basis.
You know, at Perfect Relations, we advise a lot of heads of government, a lot of heads of large corporations, which sometimes are the size of governments. And we believe ourselves that CEOs must communicate on a need to communicate basis. Being constantly open to comment is not very good. We didn't hear the same kind of criticism from a Prime Minister who chose to be absolutely mute for large parts of his tenure. So I think the selective muting that Modi has opted to is good. The selective attempts to silence the media, which are not necessarily from Mr. Modi, are not good. This is a country which values democracy and understands the need for openness and freedom. The fact that Modi has chosen and his ministers have chosen to communicate via social media is oriented towards the future.
I think he prefers to go to the people directly over the head of the media, and then the media follows him. This policy has succeeded in Gujarat. Up till now, this has succeeded. Even in his election campaign, he succeeded in doing that. It was only at the fag end of the campaign that he allowed every media person to interview him. Then there was an avalanche of interviews by Modi. So when Modi thinks it fit, I think he will come to the media. Before that, he will go over the heads of media to the people and set the agenda for the media. And media, unfortunately, is not able to set any agenda for Modi.
No media advisor, is that a good thing in today's 24/7 age?
That media has to decide. Media was going completely gaga, so now media will have to, realize what exactly is happening, and it's up to them.
So what the first 100 days have shown is that the new Prime Minister runs a very strict ship of state. And although he is still charting his course, one thing is clear. As in Gujarat, even in New Delhi, Narendra Modi runs a strictly one-man show.